This is Rattling the Cage with Tony Reid. It's time.
Hey, it's Rattling the Cage with Tony Reid once again in the 8 days a week in Stone State Entertainment Studios, joined by my co-host with the most, the man with the plan, the Tower of Power, Action Jackson, John Vivakis.
Action Jackson?
I don't know. That didn't fit, but
no, if you're gonna compare me to a Carl Weathers character, I'd much rather be Apollo Creed.
I would rather have you be Apollo Creed in Rocky 4. So,
oh, thanks, Tony. Man, makes me.
So hey, we're.
You know what? I was actually thinking about Apollo Creed and Rocky 4 driving to work the other day.
Yeah,
it was just such a shame what happened to that guy.
Were you just having flashbacks?
I was. When you're a kid, when that came out, 1980. 87 maybe
something around there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you're a kid and you're excited about Apollo's going to put on a show, and we all know how that ended.
James Brown sings him out, and it's big time. All
Rocky just should have thrown in the towel.
Pomp and circumstance, and then it ended horribly.
It's a shame what happened to Apollo Creed.
Was it worse for Carl Weathers in Rocky 4 or in like Happy Gilmore?
Or Predator?
Ooh. That was a tough call, too. Yeah.
Would you rather fight the Predator or Ivan Drago?
Oh, the Predator. Ivan Drago was about as mean and nasty as it gets.
There's a question for you. Would you?
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I'm going with Predator.
I think I'd rather fight Ivan Drago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now?
Now? Oh, now, absolutely. Well, I don't know.
Dolph
Lundgren's actually a badass, martial artist.
Yeah.
I think if that fight went down for real, Stallone would. Well, pre-USADA Stallone would might have a chance, but yeah.
I don't think he's being tested at any point. So
he's never been tested.
He
ever.
looks like he's a 25-year-old.
Yeah. So
at least from like the neck down.
What if Ivan Drago fought the Predator?
Ooh, was it in Russia?
Would they have to, or would it be like neutral ground?
How much treadmill training could Drago get in beforehand?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Incline? Like hardcore incline?
Yeah.
Treadmill?
Exactly.
Juice him up right there in the gym as he's training?
Oh, yeah, and here's the thing, the Predator doesn't care.
No.
There would be no drug testing for that fight.
No. I'm not much of a sci-fi guy.
Who actually would sanction that? Because the Predator's, from another...
Greg Serb.
From another planet. Really?
Greg Serb.
Greg Serb would never sanction the Predator. There was something wrong.
Well, he's not an MMA fighter, so Greg Serb would probably be perfectly fine sanctioning him.
That is true. Yeah, because I don't know what sanctioning...
We're just going to really go hard in the paint today, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know who sanctions intergalactic alien fights, but, it would be interesting.
Anyhow.
Okay.
Aside from all intergalactic alien fighting, which there's a pitch for you, John. There's a show.
I would watch it.
We do have a great show lined up. 2 big interviews on this week's show. UFC interim welterweight champion and one of the most polarizing figures in all of MMA, Colby Covington, is going to join the show to tell us about the moment he had the UFC title wrapped around his waist, his time at the White House with President Donald Trump after winning the title, and some choice remarks for and about UFC President Dana White, and of course, rival Tyron Woodley and a number of other people. There really weren't a lot of limits put on this interview, so just take it for what it's worth. And I think you and I have similar feelings on the pro wrestling aspect of the game and how some people get offended or take things the wrong way when you just have to take it with a grain of salt, man. It's entertainment. That's what he's doing. Is everything he says PC? No. Do we agree with it? No. He probably doesn't even agree with it. You just have to take it for what it's worth. It's his shtick. It's his calling card. It's self-promotion at its finest, really, in mixed martial arts anyway.
Yeah, and it has served him well. Why stop now?
It has.
Because again, whether you agree or disagree with his position in the company, whether he's one of the top, welterweights in the world, I don't know. But he's talked his way into that position. Yeah. People want to watch him fight, or they want to watch him get beat up, depending on your position. So, hey, more power to him.
And either way, all he cares about is that you want to watch him. And we even had, again, I say this all the time, we had that in the conversation, but we did, so you'll hear that shortly. TUF 27 champ and current UFC prospect on the come up. Mike Trizano joins us too. We talk about we discuss his need to kind of move forward from his time on TUF. He won the show, but he's looking to make a name for himself officially in the UFC. So we talk a lot about that. Talk about wanting to fight kind of named guys. He wants to quote unquote climb the ladder like everyone does. And we talk about some Twitter call outs and some social media beef and all that fun stuff. Not nearly at the level of Covington, mind you, but in the vein of that stuff. So many incredible topics. GSP retired since we were on last. We're going to preview UFC 235, which seems like a hell of a card, basically top to bottom. Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier headline UFC 236, which is a hell of a scrap. Matt Hughes, some personal issues came to light this week. We'll discuss some other fun MMA stuff that John likes to talk about, including Rumble Johnson maybe being on the verge of killing another man. Not anything, against him or illegal, but John, you saw some news about Rumble Johnson.
He may or may not allegedly be fighting a human being without gloves,
which is just
and for anyone who has watched Rumble Johnson punch a human being with gloved hands, I got nothing.
It could be life altering for that opponent, and I don't mean to laugh, but Rumble Johnson with no gloves is about as scary as it could get in present day MMA. So anywho, so we'll get to all that, but we're gonna take a quick break, come back on the other side with the interview with Colby Covington.
This is Tony Reid, Fighters Only Magazine, joined by truly the one and only UFC welterweight. We're still gonna call you the welterweight interim champ, the welterweight champ, Mr. Colby Covington. How's it going, man?
Yeah, you can call me the people's champ. You can call me America's champ. Any of the above works, but I am the champion and number one ranked welterweight in the world.
Yeah, let's start there. Just all the other stuff aside, just the fact, you went in there, you absolutely thrashed RDA. You've been on a hell of a run. The moment that title was wrapped around your waist, I mean, what was going through your mind? What emotions were you feeling? What was that moment like for you to finally have UFC gold wrapped around your waist?
It was a moment of a lifetime of work. I've been training since I was 7 years old in a wrestling room, and I've always had aspirations to be a world champion. So to finally, be recognized as a world champion and have a world championship belt wrapped around my waist, it's a lifetime of hard work finally, coming to fruition. So, I'm very thankful and blessed for the opportunities I've been given and what I've been able to accomplish. But, I'm never content, and I still have unfinished business.
Yeah, for sure. But the title itself, it's kind of pinned to the top of your Twitter feed at the moment, the meeting with Trump. You said you kept your word, fulfilled a promise. What was that experience like? I know we had texted back and forth a bit. You said you had some Trump stories or a Trump story. What was that day or that afternoon or that morning, whatever it was? What was that time like for you?
Man, that was the greatest day of my life. Me and my agent, Dan Lambert, we got on a private jet, his private jet. We flew up to Washington, D.C., and we got to hang out with Trump for about an hour in the Oval Office. And just an incredible experience. There's no higher honor as a U.S. citizen to be able to go to the White House and hang out with the sitting president in the Oval Office.
Yeah.
So, it was every dream I've ever had. Finally dreams are coming true. So it was a great day. Trump was really cool. He kept calling me champ, and I didn't think that he would tell me a bad story about him, but he ended up telling me he really respects me because he wrestled in high school, except he was the type of wrestler that used to count the lights on the ceiling. So as a wrestler, that means you were getting pinned. So I was surprised he opened up about that and told me that, he was getting pinned.
That is funny. And the kind of the iconic picture, the image, you have the MAGA hat on. I think you have the belt over Trump's shoulder. I mean, that's a hell of an image right there.
Yeah, man, it was a great image and something I'll never forget. As soon as I gave him the belt, he tried to give it to me back. I said, "No, Mr. President, this belt's for you. You are the champion of the American people, and you're making this country great again." He was just like, "Whoa, really?" Like, to see the excitement in his eyes to keep that belt, man, that'll live with me for the rest of my life. You can take away, anything, but you can't take away those moments and those memories, and that'll last with me for the rest of my life.
Absolutely. So we know the well publicized back and forth between you and Tyron Woodley, the beef going on there. Can you just walk us through maybe the origin of it? And now that it's kind of gone back and forth, we know Woodley versus Till happened before Woodley versus Covington. Now it seems as if Woodley versus Usman's going to happen before Woodley versus Covington. Can you just speak to the ups and downs and the roller coaster that is, Colby versus Tyron on social media?
Yeah, man. Me and Tyrone, we've been at it a long time. Many years. We go back in the training room, and we've never really liked each other because he wanted to be the alpha in the gym, but that was never him. I was always beating the shit out of him in training, and deep down inside, he knows that. And we've been going back and forth on Twitter for years now. And it's sad we can't make the fight happen, but what's even sadder is him, telling the lies to the media, trying to say, oh, I want to fight him, this and that. He don't want to fight me, man. If he want to fight me, we would have fought because, he was offered the fight multiple times. He was offered the fight after I beat Damian Maia, multiple times. And then all of a sudden, he had to get shoulder surgery. He could have fought. He was willing to fight Nate Diaz or GSP, but he wouldn't fight me. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And then after I win the interim title, we could have fought a couple times in November, December, January. He turned me down every single date, and he just plain out doesn't want to fight me because deep down inside he knows what happens. So, to be honest, I don't know if the fight will ever happen, but, I have nothing to prove to him. I already beat his ass in the training room. I know I'm a better fighter than him, so if I never fight him, he's going to have to live the rest of his life knowing he's my bitch.
And you talk about being the people's champ. Well, the people really wanted you versus Tyron. We saw I don't know if Ariel when he was with ESPN or prior when he was with MMA Fighting, but that poll that he had out, I mean, that was basically a landslide. People wanted to see you over Usman here in the upcoming fight.
Yeah, man. I mean, there was multiple polls. ESPN did a poll with Ariel, 80,000 people voted, and 80% of the fans wanted me to fight Woodley. And then MMA Junkie did a poll; it was like 90%. Woodley put out a poll on his Twitter, and it was like 20,000 fans, and like 92% wanted to see me fight him. So, it's sad to see the UFC, be corrupt and go this route, but it's their business, so they can do whatever they want to do with their business. But they're definitely not pleasing the fans or doing what the fans want because the fans wanted the opposite. They wanted me to fight Tyrone, and it's sad. They're trying to shove shit down your throat and say, hey, this is filet mignon.
No, I think you're really onto something there. I mean, that's not even just between you and Woodley. Just across the board, there's a lot of head scratching, what the hell is going on with certain matchups. But it seems like an entertainment business, but at the same time, they're not putting some of the best entertainers together to dance. So it's just it's a really weird situation right now for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, what's most sad about it is, Uncle Fester and the UFC, they really want to be legitimized as a sport. What sport does number 2 come before number 1? And what sport does the interim champion not fight the champion? Yeah. That would be like in the NFL a couple weeks ago, Tom Brady and the New England Patriots chip, and then Roger Goodell says, hey, Tom Brady, hey, Patriots, Robert Kraft, you guys aren't going to the Super Bowl because we don't like you.
Yeah.
So, you're not going to the Super Bowl. We're going to take the Chiefs. It makes no sense, and that just showed the true colors of the sport. It's not really a sport. It's a show, it's a circus, and it's a corrupt business, and it's sad, man.
Yeah, and if anybody that follows you on social media sees that you called him Uncle Fester, Dana White, he's squarely in your crosshairs at the moment. Have you had any recent interactions with Dana? Have you been able to kind of vent your frustrations to him directly, or is it all kind of at a distance, through social media and stuff like that?
And he won't talk to me. Even before we had our blow up, I was reaching out, hey, Dana, let's just sit down, let's talk. Okay, you want to do this fight? Explain to me why you want to do this fight.
Yeah.
Tell me the real reason you want to do this fight. Before I blew up on him, and he wouldn't even give me a sit-down meeting. He gives sit-down meetings to every other fighter in the organization, but he wouldn't give me a sit-down meeting. So, you know what? I'm not gonna be shy about my feelings anymore. I'm just gonna start talking how I feel and be honest. Before I was hiding things and I was saying, things that weren't true about the UFC. Oh, they're so good, they treat guys. But you know what? Nah, that's not how it is. It's a corrupt business. They do some shady dealings and some shady business, and And, I don't want to be a part of it anymore, to be honest. I wish they'd just give me my release, but they don't, Uncle Fester doesn't have a big enough ball sack to release me.
Yeah, that's something we've seen a lot, almost more and more every single day. High-level elite fighters, leaving the UFC, going to Bellator, going to ONE, going overseas, going wherever, and even becoming bigger stars and getting bigger paydays. Is that, you kind of mentioned it there, but is that something that you wouldn't be opposed to, doing some work for Bellator, maybe going to ONE and making a couple million, that kind of thing?
Absolutely. I mean, just to see that Eddie Alvarez, got a $10 million contract with ONE, that's huge. That's awesome, because everybody thinks that UFC is a monopoly and they run the field, and that's what the UFC does to the fighters. They put fear in fighters. Oh, there's nowhere else. It's only UFC, this and that. But no, that's not what it is. You got Bellator, you got ONE, you got some other organizations that are making their way up, paying $1 million paychecks. So, there's a market out there, and there's other options. So, UFC is not the only show in town anymore, and that's exciting for fighters.
Yeah, it's funny we're talking, because I just spoke to Eddie last week, and that was the exact conversation we got to. Like, him being, a blue chip free agent, he said he would challenge any top tier fighter to test the free agent market, because it really does pay off. So, I mean, if it comes down to it, I mean, that that might be an option for you, really.
I mean, to be honest, that'd be the best case option, but the UFC is so fucking crooked that they won't give me that option. They won't let me out of my contract. I begged, I said, hey, let me out of my contract. You didn't honor your deal. You promised me a title shot. I want a belt, and you're not giving me a title shot. And it's just so funny, because Uncle Fester, Dana White, goes back on his word. Originally, he got the word from the UFC doctors, hey, Colby's sinuses and his deviated septum are messed up. He has to get the sinus surgery. He's going to be out of action for a couple months. So he's like, okay, yeah, Colby's hurt. He'll fight the winner of Till Woodley. And then all of a sudden, oh, Colby wasn't hurt. He should have taken the opportunity. Now he lost the opportunity. He's going to have to win another fight to get back to a title shot. The guy's so full of shit, such a lying piece of shit, man.
Yeah.
That guy, man, he's just, it's sad, man. It's just, he lies to his own family. He lies to his mom. I don't know if you know the story about his mom, but he promised his grandma before she died that he was going to fly her out to Vegas on his private jet, get her health care treatment, this and that. Yeah, he lied to her and let her die without ever doing that. So
really,
more of the story, Dana White is a piece of shit liar, and you can't take that guy's word for anything.
Yeah, and I've heard all the stories, the issues between him and his mom over the years, and then when his mom kind of came out, he really, he came out with his mom kind of let some dirty laundry air out about Dana's extracurricular activities, and I think that probably sealed the deal for her and him in the future. But yeah, it seems like there's a lot of shady stuff going on, and more of it seems to be coming out.
Yeah, man, just it's an ever going list of things, from a lot of conflict of interest type stuff where him, I've heard a lot of stuff of him and fighters, hooking up, and him and ring card girls. So he's a piece of shit dirtbag. But whether or not we hate each other or whatnot, he's gonna have to do something. He's gonna have to just come to terms and realize that this is business. You don't have to like everybody in business, but I am what's best for business. And I've never used the UFC for anything, man. They've never promoted me. They've never sent me out to their things like they do for some of their other golden ponies. I'm a self-marketer. I'm self-made. I literally made everything on my own. I did this all on my own. So I don't need the UFC anymore, and they're gonna have to come to terms with that. They're gonna have to either give me a release, or they're gonna be in deep water, because I will take them to court.
Yeah, and that's something I want to touch on too. Like you said, you've talked yourself into opportunities. Now, I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a good way. Like you said, you're a master self-marketer, and you got opportunities, and you crushed it every time out. So kudos to you. But when it comes down to it, a lot of the stuff you say, do you get legit threats? I mean, a lot of people take that stuff super seriously. Have you received crazy death threats and craziness like that over the last few months and years with the stuff that's kind of come out?
Oh, yeah, big time, man. I mean, after I called Brazil filthy animals and called the country a dump, I had thousands and thousands of death threats in my Instagram messages and Twitter messages, and it was so bad that the UFC had to move. I was supposed to fight Rafael dos Anjos for the belt originally in Brazil, but the UFC was getting such bad death threats on my behalf from favelas and from gangs out there that they're like, no, this is too big of a liability. We can't even take this kid out there. So,
oh, man.
Yeah, my life is definitely in danger. But
that's crazy.
that's why I stay inside these days. I don't really do too much, going outside or anything. I keep myself indoors, and I just focus on my training and getting to the next fight.
That as soon as you said that made me think. I think I texted you ahead of the awards last year, and I'm like, "Hey, is there any chance you're going to be there?" And you literally were like, "No, I gotta keep a low profile right now."
For sure, man. It's that's what comes with the territory, and everything is, it's big business I'm doing right now, and a lot of people, have problems with me. They think I'm racist. They think I'm this, which is all, it's no facts. There's nothing that supports any of those claims. It's just all, fake news. But, I definitely have to be low profile these days. I can't just go outside, because there's a lot of liberals in Florida, and people want me dead just for supporting Trump, so
yeah,
along with that and the Brazil heat that I got and calling them filthy animals, man, I got to keep my life, I got to make sure I have my life so I can, do this business. So the best thing is just to keep a low profile and stay out of the public eye.
Damn, do you think it'll at some point some of it'll blow over and it won't be quite as the heat won't be quite as hot? Do you think at some point it's I don't know. That's a tough way to live for over an extended period of time anyway. Like when the heat's hot, when it's on you, I could see that. But damn, that would become an issue after a while, I would think.
Yeah, it's definitely tough, man. Every day, I'm always looking over my shoulder, and I'm always like really overconscious that someone's gonna, do something to me or come up to me and just sideswipe me. So, it's a tough way to live, but that's what comes with the territory. This is what I asked for, man.
Yeah.
I wanted to do the big business. I don't want to fight for peanuts, man. We put our brain health on the line every time we go out there and fight. So I want to maximize my earning potential and get the most amount of money possible. So, if I have to, live with a bunch of heat and death threats and people that want to kill me every day, I'm willing to go that route because I want to secure a future financially for myself and be able to retire young.
Yeah. Yeah, so what does that plan look like if you were to kind of have it your way, as they say? What do the next maybe 5 years look like for you? Would it be a couple big fights and then you'd be calling it a day, or do you have like any type of game plan going forward, I guess?
Yeah, my game plan is definitely I got unfinished business with Woodley, so yeah. I want to take care of that business with Woodley before anything, but I'm definitely looking to WWE. I've had some talks with them, and seeing Ronda's success over there is huge, and I think I'm a good fit for WWE. So, I would like to end up in WWE after I finish my fighting career.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I think you even posted a picture. You were backstage at one of the shows with Ronda. What was that experience like? I'm assuming you made it to a couple events. I mean, like you said, that's kind of right up your alley, I think, at some point.
Oh, man, that was such a surreal experience to go backstage, hang out with Paul Heyman, and Paul Heyman saying, "Yo, Colby, man, that was the best promo I've ever heard." So to hear someone like Paul Heyman and Brock, even Brock Lesnar came up to me and was like, "Man, that promo was awesome, man. You can shoot a promo." And then just hear Ronda Rousey, she understands everything I'm doing. She doesn't agree with Trump, but she doesn't align with that politically, but she still respects me and understands what I'm doing. I'm trying to market and promote myself and get the big fights, and that's what it's all about. So, WWE, that was a cool experience, and hopefully I won't be backstage. I can be out there in the ring putting on a show for all the fans around the world. That
would be awesome. So, bottom line, like you said, love or hate, the bottom line is people care. You're a needle mover. What you're doing is effective. Is that really the bottom line? Like, hey, love me or hate me, just tune in, just get me pay-per-view points, whatever the case is. Just love me or hate me, but feel something, right?
Exactly. These people don't realize that I'm creating entertainment for their lives. Whether they're the haters that are coming in and saying how much they hate me and want me dead and want to kill me, they're letting their frustrations and emotions out on me, so they're getting that off their chest, and that's probably making their lives better. And then, for the other people that love me, they get what I'm doing, man. I'm putting on a show. I'm entertaining fans. So, unlike Tyrone Woodley, when he fights, people turn the channel to Real Housewives of OC. When I fight, people don't turn the channel. They want to see me fight.
Absolutely. You're like you're in the ilk of Chael and Conor. Like you're exciting in the cage, but your persona outside of it is just as big or even bigger, which is a testament to you. I mean that in the best possible way. But yeah, you're definitely along those lines, man. We appreciate what you do. We appreciate the time. That's all I got for you. I'll definitely keep you posted when this goes to print. Get some issues out to you, and maybe if it's cool, I'll bug you every once in a while for an interview, man.
Cool. Sounds good, brother. Good talking to you and catching up again. I hope you have a great day.
Absolutely. You too. Thanks a lot, man.
So we're back. Like we said, pretty interesting interview with Colby Covington, as only he can do at the moment. So, wow, a lot of information there, John. A lot of information. Some great Trump stories that he literally saved for us. Just, of course, Tyron Woodley. He has issues there, and he's just not happy with the state of the UFC right now, and you can't blame him. I mean, sometimes it's like fighters don't know what the hell is going on with their career, and they want to get in there, they want to fight for the title. Now, obviously, Tyron has this fight coming up this weekend, which Colby clearly feels he should be in there to unify the title or defend it or whatever you want to do with an interim title. I don't know. I don't know if you defend it. I don't know if you unify it with the champ. That's kind of the muddied water, but never short on words or never mincing them either. Colby Covington,
right? And the issue with Colby, one of the issues I have with him, again, great interview, love this, love listening to him run his mouth, always fun. But again, he's one of those guys that sometimes he's when the politics go in his favor and he can talk himself into a title shot, he's all for it. When somebody else kind of for lack of a better term, trumps him with that.
Oh, like I see what you did there.
Like that?
Damn, John's on his A game today.
Yeah, sometimes he does tend to come off as a little whiny.
Okay.
So,
all right.
But again, hey, as entertaining and outspoken a guy as there is, and as of right now, nobody shut him up.
Yeah, that's kind of where we're at, and that's pretty much where he's at, And like I even said to him in mid-interview, I'm like, I don't know that I meant it to come out the way it did, but I said, a lot of us get what you're doing. We appreciate it even on some level. I think I even said that in the interview. I'm like, we appreciate what you're doing. We know there's a sect of people or a pocket that I don't know if they're truly offended or if they're truly taking it that seriously or whatever the case is. It's entertainment. That's what we're taking it as, and he keeps things fun. He keeps things exciting, and that's what I said to him, I believe, in the interview as well. Like, you're one of the guys that's as entertaining outside of the cage and in the news headlines and in social media as you are in the cage, and that's saying something, especially in modern day MMA. I mean, that means something. And I think
he's one of the guys that actually believes what he's saying. You know what I mean? I don't think, again,
a degree of that. Yeah.
There's, how many guys there are that we can tell. There's a show, there's a switch, there's a, I think Tyron Woodley's one of them. I don't think he's the kind of guy that is big on running his mouth, but yet, will do it. And guys like, the persona that Connor puts out, is very different from the person that he is, and different things like that. But I think Colby Covington's a guy that, we were joking about one of our heroes, Don Fry, earlier. I think he's in that same vein where, you know what? He doesn't care what you think.
Yeah.
He believes what he says.
Yeah. So speaking of, that'll kind of segue us into a bunch of welterweight news. That's what we kind of talked about before we went live here. There's a lot of UFC welterweight news on the horizon here. UFC 235, like we mentioned this weekend, one hell of an event top to bottom. John Jones defends his light heavyweight title against Anthony Smith. Tyron Woodley takes on Kamaru Usman in the co-main event of the evening. That's for the UFC welterweight title. Another crazy, interesting, super interesting welterweight title fight. Not title fight, excuse me, fight. Robbie Lawler takes on Ben Askren, making his UFC debut. That's going to be fun. And I mean, full disclosure, I don't buy all the pay-per-views. I'll watch them at some point somehow, but every so often you get one, you're like, we got to get this. I got to buy this myself or go somewhere and see it, watch it live, I should say. And this is definitely one of those cards. The main card, like we said, Jones, Smith, Woodley, Usman, Lawler, Askren, Torres, Zhang, Cody Garbrandt's like the opening fight on the main card. Cody Garbrandt, Pedro Munoz. That could be a banger of a fight. Even the prelims. Jeremy Stevens on the prelim, man. Johnny Walker's back in. He's one of my new favorite fighters.
Okay.
Johnny Walker, man, he brings the ruckus. He is fun to watch. There's Diego Sanchez and Mickey Gall is like the first prelim on like the prelim.
Mm-hmm.
That should be a super fun fight. No matter how it plays out, that should be a fun fight.
Interesting. Again, we said this the other week about, a top to bottom good card. I like it. I'm very happy. And here's the thing. Some of these fights have the potential to be very one-sided.
Yeah, that's true.
Obviously, John Jones has the potential to run through anybody. We all know what Ben Askren's capable of if he's on his game. But at the same time, I want to see it. It's not exactly. These are fights that you want to see. You want to see, can John Jones, is he back?
Yeah.
Against a guy who, no disrespect to Anthony Smith, and we'll kind of talk about this at the end, is a huge underdog.
Yeah, and for a good reason.
Right.
At this point, yeah, absolutely.
And again, how often is it possible that you could see Robbie Lawler dominated in a fight?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
Honestly, that fight could be total domination either way, really.
Right.
I mean, if it stays on the feet and Lawler starts piecing him up, that could happen. Or if Ben takes him down, he could totally dominate. So that could be a total domination either way. Woodley, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Woodley totally dominates Usman. I mean, is Kamaru really at that level yet? We're going to find out. Cody Garbrandt could just run through Pedro Munoz. Tisha Torres could run. I mean, she's a smotherer, and she could easily totally handle Zhang. I don't know.
We could be sitting here next week going, man, that was dull.
Yeah. What a boring, lopsided card that was.
Right, exactly. But at the same time, they're all interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're all interesting. I am very much looking for. The thing about the top 3 fights that intrigues me again is John Jones going to look like John Jones?
Yeah.
Again, we talked about he looked good against Gustafsson, but he's got a guy. Does he really get up for Anthony Smith? And that
might be the biggest question of
right.
all.
There was the return against Gustafsson. Okay, that's a return. It's a guy that
pushed him last
he
time.
had a war
Almost
with.
took it from him.
He's not fighting DC. He's not fighting Brock Lesnar. He's not. Anthony Smith is just kind of laying in the weeds. I mean, and does he get up for it? The same thing. Does Woodley? Is Usman for real? Does Woodley get up to fight Usman? I don't know. They've had some interesting trash talk back and forth. The big brother, little brother, comments based on their past, and then it's the same difference. Is the Askren hype going to be real?
Yeah,
we know what he's capable of.
Yeah,
but he's never been on this brightest stage. As far as in MMA, I mean, obviously the Olympics are a huge stage, but he's never been on this biggest stage in MMA. And Robbie Lawler is a Hall of Famer. So I am pumped. The intrigue surrounding these fights is what I'm worried about. They could all be duds.
Yeah.
But I want to know.
Yeah, we got to see it with our own 2 eyes, or our own 1 eye, or whatever. Got to see it.
What are you is there Pirates MMA band Pirates?
That's right.
Or
I'm watching it with an eye patch, John.
I wouldn't doubt that. I know.
Yeah.
Shout out to our boy Mike Hoover. I mean,
we are really taking it there today.
My favorite one-eyed pirate.
This might be the juiciest show to date. We're like going in on Serb. You just called out one of our good buddies. Super great guy, and you just put it. Oh man.
Well, I mean, I don't know a lot of one-eyed guys. I gotta at least, call out the one I know.
Captain Crunch, is he one-eyed?
No, he's got 2.
Does he have 2? Okay.
Yeah.
Captain Morgan. There's plenty of Captain Morgan around here.
I don't think Captain Crunch is a pirate. I think he's more of like an admiral, or
I
think he's a legit Navy man.
Possibly.
Yeah, he's got his own fleet, I think.
It's like Captain Gordon's.
Yeah,
like
the Gordon. He's just a fisherman.
Oh,
the Gordon's fisherman.
Damn.
I don't think he's an admiral.
He's a captain. Isn't it Captain Gordon's?
I don't know.
I
have no idea.
Anyhow,
okay.
Captain Gordon would take out Captain Crunch, though. I know that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The fisherman. No,
yeah.
Where is this fight taking place? If it's in the rain,
on a
he's
boat,
good.
clearly.
If he's in the rain, it's good because he's got the rain
the Red
slicker.
Sea or something. I don't know.
In the Bering Strait,
the Caribbean.
Oh, those
Gulf
are
of Mexico. I don't know.
Calm waters, right?
Somewhere. The Atlantic Ocean. Just keep it over on this side of the pond. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. In the
Man,
Bermuda
we're doing a lot of matchmaking today.
We are. But speaking of matchmaking, UFC 235 looks like a banger. We're looking forward to that this weekend. So from 235, clearly we go to 236, and Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier was just recently announced as the headline for that event. A fight that, I mean, Dustin Poirier, he's like on the cusp. He's on the verge. He's proven himself. He deserves to get that title shot again. John, thoughts on Holloway Poirier?
And again, this one's got some history.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's got some history. So, we got some looking for some retribution again.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
which is an interesting concept for Holloway because, there's some interesting fights for him of guys that have beaten him, before he got on this tear, before he got on this run.
Dennis Bermudez, man.
Yeah, Dennis. I mean, you got Connor. You got guys that could be interesting fights for him down the road. But this one. Again, whether you agree or disagree that allowing, the champ at 145 to come up, maybe leapfrog some guys there, whether you agree or disagree, that's your opinion. But this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
And again, it could be, we've laughed about it. Max could run through Dustin.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, because is anybody on Max's level right now? We've talked about it. Is anybody fighting as well as Max Holloway currently?
It hasn't looked like it lately. It hasn't looked like there's anybody on his level lately.
Right. So, but again, Poirier's another guy that
he seems to reinvent himself every time out and looks better and better and sharper and sharper. And
right.
Not to use the Joe Rogan, this is the best Dustin Poirier we've ever seen, but
I think
it truly feels like that.
But I think it's fair because he came in, kind of burst on the scene, as a young guy was doing some things and hit a couple skids.
Yeah.
And then recently has kind of reinvented himself again, like you said, and just really looked well, looked sharp, kind of has gotten back to doing some things that he did early on in his career. And you are never going to have a boring fight with Dustin Poirier in there. No.
So just on paper, that looks like one you literally can't miss if you're a fan. I mean, that's a scrap right there.
So the question, and you and I were talking about it before we started, where does this leave, the Tony Fergusons?
Yeah.
Where does this leave the Conor McGregors? Obviously, Khabib is looming. Where does this leave those guys? Because what happens if Max wins? Then we have another 2-division champ, which again holds up. And it holds up a good division.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It holds up. It probably holds up the division with, outside of John Jones, the biggest draws. I think Khabib and Conor probably you would say are probably the two biggest draws outside of John Jones. And so, Tony's looming, but you've heard the rumors. Did Tony turn it down? Did he not turn it down? Does he really want to fight either of these guys? Does he only want the Khabib fight? He's been, twittering with back and forth with Conor. I don't think he's doing himself any favors. So again, this is the catch-22 of MMA. It's we got a great night, a hell of a fight, but what are the consequences going down the road of this fight? I mean, Poirier wins, who's next in line? Poirier, Max wins, he's a champ, and again, that creates
we are
drama.
ahead of our time because a few weeks ago we talked about is the champ thing losing some of its luster, or will it? And
I think it is.
It's going to keep. I think it's going to keep happening, and someday it's going to be like boxing, where you're, they add more weight classes, guys do it even more, women do it even more, and there's going to come a day when it's not as big of a deal.
Now, don't get me wrong. I would enjoy Max Holloway trying to win every title currently in the UFC right now.
Keep going up.
I would enjoy a Max Holloway.
That could be fun.
I would enjoy a Max Holloway, fight at heavyweight. What the heck? I think that would be fun. I mean, I think that would be fun. But is it good for the sport? I don't know.
Yeah.
We're gonna tune in and watch.
Only
So
time will tell.
right.
Time will tell.
Time always tells.
Time does always tell. Anyhow, more welterweight news. One of the greatest, some consider the greatest, Georges St-Pierre recently announced his retirement, and he made it official. Like, there was a lot of downtime, a lot of movie opportunities, other career opportunities, and then he came back out of the blue and beats Michael Bisping to become a 2-division champ. Not a champ, but a 2-division champ. And it was kind of like the storybook St-Pierre fight. He came back and took the title from Bisping. Well, he officially announced his retirement. He ended his career 26-2 and 20-2 in the UFC. Like I said, former welterweight and middleweight champ. He had a press conference in Montreal to announce his decision last week to walk away from the sport for good. So, do you feel that he truly is walking away from MMA forever? Because part of the reasoning was that there weren't any fights that sparked his interest. He really wanted the Khabib fight. On some level, that was the thing they were kind of angling for. Whether he really wanted a Khabib or not, I don't know, but that's kind of one of the reasons that he is retiring, because there aren't any fights out there that are doing it for him right now. John, what do you think about that?
I was going to ask you this question, but I'll answer it myself. I'm not betting my house that he's done. I would not make that bet, but I think he's probably closer to being done than closer to not being done.
Yeah.
I think, again, we've talked, money always talks, and you never know what might come about. You know what I mean? The Khabib fight does materialize. They offer him, $3 million to fight Khabib in Canada.
Yeah.
I think that may happen.
Yeah.
Or you never know, if the Conor fight materializes again, or what may be on the horizon. The Askren fight's always been out there. You never know.
Yeah.
You never know. So, do I think he's closer to retirement than not? Yes, but I will never say never. And GSP is a strange bird.
Yeah, he definitely is.
He is not driven by cash. He's not driven by the fame and the fortune. He is a legit, competitive martial artist, I think. And I don't know what brings him back, but if he is done, he'll go down as one of the 2 or 3 best of all time.
Yeah.
So, we witnessed a heck of a run if he did.
Yeah.
And the comeback was cool. I was cool with that.
Absolutely.
I'm cool with that. Would I have liked to see the Khabib fight, the Conor fight? Maybe even though it probably isn't as great as it would have been in 5-6 years ago, fight Anderson Silva. Would I have loved to see all that stuff? Absolutely. Yeah. But the storybook comeback was pretty cool.
Yeah, many people do consider him the GOAT. Like we said, he only fought one time since November of 2013. Never considered himself retired, but he vacated the 170-pound title following the defense against Johnny Hendricks back at UFC 167. Then he took, it was about 4 years off. So, and again, widely considered the GOAT. He holds numerous records. I don't know if he has the most time spent in the octagon, but he's right up there. Most strikes landed, best. Just a number of, and of course his lengthy welterweight title run, coupled with his then adding that middleweight title on top. I mean, he's clearly in the conversation. Definitely top 2 or 3 for me too.
And what you think of his style, what you think of his
is he a safe fighter?
Absolutely. But
I mean, you fault someone for that? It worked well, and stop him then, or make like we always say, like if you get taken down, like figure out how to get up.
I will quote to quote our buddy Tim Boach: the goal of a fight is not to get punched in the face.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
He was one of the best of all time at not absorbing damage and shutting you down. We talk about Askren, we talk about DJ. There might not be anybody better than GSP at just shutting a guy down.
Yeah.
And also just, if you're good at something, he's either going to beat you at that or he's going to completely take it away.
Yeah.
And he was not a guy who's going to knock you out, not a guy who's going to, beat you with brute force, but he's going to, as far as a tactical mixed martial arts fighter, I don't think there was anyone better.
Yeah, I think you said it right there. Like he would he would take away what you did best. Like we talk about DJ or John Jones, who like goes out of his way to beat you at your game and just demoralize you. GSP wasn't quite like that. He would just shut down what you did and you would play his game no matter what. And that's just how it always played out for him to a wildly successful career, obviously. But yeah, he was the guy that would just shut down whatever you were doing. You were gonna fight his fight, and very few people. Like we talked about upsets, maybe the greatest upset ever. Matt Serra knocks out GSP at UFC 69 in Houston, I believe it was. That was one of his 2 losses. The other one was the Matt Hughes, which he clearly avenged, as we were talking, little avenge tour, you know? And that was it. Yeah. A ridiculous upset to Matt Serra, and then the loss to Matt Hughes when he was a kid.
Right.
That was it. Other than that...
How many fights was he ever in trouble? You know, very few. I mean,
he
had some
one hand
he had some good fights, some solid fights.
Yeah.
You know, I know fighting Carlos Condit. He had some other fights that were close, good, solid fights. But he, you know, other than the losses, never really saw him in trouble.
I want to say now I'm going to nerd out a little bit. Was it UFC 58 when it was like USA versus Canada? I believe he fought BJ and he took like an eye poke or
something like that.
Hit early, and he fought through basically fought with one eye, and he was busted
and that was before GSP was.
But he still won. He still weathered that and won. But that was probably, other than like I said, the shock upset or the loss to Hughes, that was probably off the top of my head the fight.
I do. I remember sitting in a bar watching him fight Carlos Condit, and that was that was one that, you know, Condit did some good things, but he didn't do enough. You want to use a different sports analogy. GSP's like kind of like Bill Belichick is, you know, and the Patriots are. They take away what you're good at. Yeah. You know, they're boring. You don't want to watch it. You know, you know, they're not going to wow you in interviews. They're not going to do anything fun. But when you get between the lines or in the octagon, they're going to take away what you do best. Yeah. And they're going to tell you they're going to do it. They can tell you what they're going to do. You know what they're going to do. You just can't stop them from doing it.
Nope. You can't stop, won't stop. Mm-hmm. So while we're talking UFC welterweight news, some rather unfortunate news that just broke within the last day. Multiple restraining orders were taken out on former UFC welterweight champ Matt Hughes, UFC Hall of Famer Matt Hughes. Some pretty crazy stuff is being alleged at this point. His wife has taken out a restraining order. I guess he has to stay 500 feet away, one of those deals. Multiple things being reported, instances of his physical abuse towards her. I guess one happened that she alleged that he put his hand on her in front of the children when she asked about, he's on his phone and other women and, you know, going down that road. And I guess he put his hands on her there. And then shortly after his well-publicized truck accident, when he is in a truck that was hit by an oncoming train, I believe the story was that he had asked, she was in the shower and he asked for his keys to the truck and the gun safe or something, and she refused to give him, and he actually physically choked her, pushed her head against the wall. So some really, really hard to hear, some really cringeworthy details coming out now, stuff that's going on with Matt Hughes. And his brother as well, his twin brother Mark, filed a restraining order against him as well. I guess there were issues with Mark's son, which would be Matt's nephew. They're farmers, they own farmland and things of that nature. And I guess there was an argument over a tractor where Matt kind of roughed up Mark's son. I believe he's 15 years old. So just some ugly, ugly, ugly stuff being alleged against Matt Hughes now. And I always go back to my personal interactions with guys, if I have any, and I go from there. My interactions with Matt Hughes have been extremely, extremely, extremely limited. So I am by all means I don't have a wealth of information firsthand from Matt Hughes. But then once I have my personal information, what I do is listen to people that I know in the sport, that I trust and believe in. There have been a lot of people that have said Matt Hughes isn't the nicest guy ever, isn't the most engaging guy ever. Trying to keep it nice here. And so some very unfortunate things coming to light here. And it was almost like someone had said it was kind of almost nice to see, not nice that the accident happened to Matt, but it was almost like a redemption story after the fact. Like he fought through some crazy injuries and came back, and it was like that feel-good story. And then fast forward a few months and this comes up. It's like, oh, not good. So not good news ahead for Matt Hughes as far as we can see.
Yeah, and if you want to put, again, hard to make light of this or put a spin on it that's positive. If I put my professional hat on,
you deal with this stuff every day.
I mean,
so
you look at, unfortunately, if he was maybe not, the nicest guy in the world, what does that mean?
Yeah,
we don't know. But you add in a traumatic event. You add in, there are reports that head trauma and different things. You got head trauma from your former profession, and then you get hit by a train. That's never good for the old melon. So
probably not.
Yeah. So the trauma of that, in addition to we don't know what else he went through, through this ordeal. So my only thought here is I'm hoping that Matt Hughes gets whatever help he needs.
Yeah.
And he whatever that is.
Yeah.
I hope he gets it. And you hate when a guy who is someone that you look up to in athletically or in something that you enjoy, when his legacy is tarnished, outside of that arena.
Yeah.
We see this way too much with athletes and actors and musicians where everything is it's tarnished outside of that arena where they were so great. So all I can say is I hope Matt Hughes gets the help he needs, and I hope that he can make a comeback in some other fashion.
Yeah, and again, not to make light of the situation at all, but moving a step away, do yourself a favor and go on the underground. I shared the link on our Rattling the Cage Facebook page, so definitely give us a like there and follow what we're doing on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all that fun stuff. Anyhow, I shared the link there, and I shared it on my own personal Facebook page. Sean McCorkle, Matt Hughes wrote a book a few years back. Sean McCorkle took the time to read it and give a chapter-by-chapter synopsis or a review in some way of Matt Hughes' book. Do yourself a favor and read Sean McCorkle's synopsis of Matt Hughes' book.
Here's my reply to that. I have my assignment for the evening.
Again, completely separate from the instances we were talking about prior, but on a little bit of a lighter note, go read Sean McCorkle's review of Matt Hughes' book. It is, and I mean it in a lighthearted way, but if you truly read into what Sean says and what Matt says, you'll get a little insight into Matt Hughes and how, like we said about GSP a little bit earlier, he's a different bird, and I mean this in a different way completely with what Matt Hughes has said himself, what he wrote in his own book. It's just a little weird, a little off, little frat boyish, jerkish, immature kind of stuff as a grown man. Just a little weird. Read the book for yourself if you'd like. I've read it, or read some of the other reviews out there. But anyhow, moving on from Matt Hughes, John. You mentioned Don Fry earlier. I found a really fun, it's only like a minute long, Don Fry clip. I think I shared it again on our Facebook page today on our social media. When Don Fry first met Wanderlei Silva. Now, in your head, you're thinking, this is like Clash of the Titans. This is like the two bosses at the end of a game somehow meeting up. It's like its own movie. It's only a minute clip. Watch it if you like, but someone's interviewing Don Fry, and they're over in Japan doing some type of tour for Pride. And Don Fry says, yeah, his bus pulled up. He's out in the parking lot waiting. He knows Wanderlei's coming, so they're waiting for Wanderlei's bus. And in the meantime, Fry's in his own head. I've never met this guy. I've seen what he's done in the ring. I know what he's all about. He's like, I don't know. Maybe we'll just throw down out here in the parking lot. So what pulls Wanderlei's bus? The entourage comes out. Wanderlei's out. They're walking towards each other. Don Fry's ready for God knows what. Wanderlei walks up to him, reaches into his pocket. Would you like a piece of gum? So, that was the big, manly, Clash of the Titan meeting between Wanderlei Silva and Don Fry. And Don Fry, of course, took a piece of gum, and they shared some gum in the parking lot. No fisticuffs, just Trident or Bazooka or Big League Chew or...
I will tell you...
Whatever it was.
If you want to see somebody chew gum like a man, you watch Don Fry.
You imagine Vanderlei and Fry nose to nose chewing some gum?
That was a manly exchange.
That would...
I think we
should be a commercial.
I did.
It
I
might
said,
be in Japan. I
right.
don't know.
Oh my goodness. We were talking about it before we started. I said, we were Colby Covington and Trump. I have always joked that, I'd love Don Fry to be president, but I did say he is the secretary of manliness.
Yeah.
If you were going to put him in your cabinet, that's what he would be.
And yes, you called him a secretary, but it's still manly.
Oh, no, he's more of an administrative assistant, right?
The administrator of manliness.
There is no, you know what, you could call him anything you want, and Don Fry is a manly human. I'm telling you, I remember, again, and I won't bore everyone with the story because I've told it 100 times, but meeting Don Fry in the way that I did, just a random meeting in Columbus, Ohio, when he asked a buddy of mine for directions. But you just, he was one of those guys that you shake his hand and you feel so inferior as a man. You do. You just shake his hand and it doesn't matter what I've done, fighting MMA, college football, having kids. It doesn't matter.
Nothing.
Means nothing. You shake his hand and you just feel so inadequate as a man.
Yeah.
And in some strange way, you're okay with it.
That might be the best Don Fry handshake analogy. I think that's fitting. That's fair. That's very fair. So while we're on this the theme of UFC welterweights, something else that surfaced late last week was actually it was two small videos kind of meshed together. It was Michael Johnson and Kamaru Usman, who fight Saturday night for the UFC welterweight title, sparring sessions. And to call them sparring sessions does them no justice. These guys it's almost beyond a fight. I mean, they're gloved up and they're sparring in the gym. Clearly that's what's going on. But they are going so unbelievably hard, throwing everything they have into it. At one point, Michael Johnson drops his hands and Kamaru Usman's just hitting him in the face. They clinch. They almost started throwing knees and kicks, which was clearly just a sparring session. Like you could the hatred and just tenseness and all that was just like emanating off their bodies. Like it was legit, like anger, hatred. It was real. And the video surfaced, and Tim Kruger, former UFC fighter, former TUF contestant, and trainer to many MMA fighters, said, this is absolutely ridiculous. This is all ego driven. This is, so he kind of gave that angle, which I agree with to a point. I guess my question to you is, and we all know in the early days of MMA, like you weren't a man if you weren't in there hard sparring. If you wore headgear, people thought less of you. If you, God forbid, if you even wore like full, 16-ounce boxing gloves, people thought less of you. But now knowing all the concussion protocol, the issues, all the CET we see in the NFL, which clearly happens in boxing and MMA, where do you fall on the scale of like all out, balls to the wall, hard sparring, and just being smart about training? Do you see a time for like super hard sparring, or you hear like goofballs be like, oh well, you have to know how to take a hit. But if you're a trained professional fighter, you know how to take a hit. You don't need to take 300 of them in practice for no reason other than your ego or other than some beef. Like, I guess where do you fall on that scale of super hard sparring or playing it smart and safe?
I have seen both sides.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I have seen both sides.
Absolutely.
Again, my frame of I am by no means a professional fighter. I have never claimed to be a professional fighter, but I have been in the room with professional fighters and watched how they do things. I have been involved in their training routines. Back in the dark ages and the old days, that is how training was done.
Yeah.
Before everyone knew what they were doing, that is literally that was what you saw in that video was every training session for every fighter. I mean, the stories that came out of the old days of Militich and those, it literally, you went in, you fought for your life. Everybody shook hands, went home, had dinner, came back, did it the next day.
But so this one, not to interrupt you, but just seemed like a level of true. There's one thing about going hard. There's another thing about like going 30 seconds after the bell and people literally having to break you.
Right.
And again, I get that's part of the old school too. But to me, there's just something about these interactions that seemed like. Do we know? Do we have any backstory? Do we know anything
like this? Because again, if they are
if
they're regular training partners, you would assume that something happened, or
I don't know.
I don't know, because again, anybody who's been in there and done it, you're not playing. You're not playing around a golf.
No,
you're
not.
in there. And tempers flare, and
I said, the video, it's just beyond like hard sparring. They are looking to kill each other,
right? And I think again,
they need to be separated,
right? And again, I think again, if I had to guess, I don't think that they do this every time. There has to be some sort of backstory, or you know what, the guys just got carried away. Was that leading up to this title fight?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because if I'm Usman and I'm focused on beating Tyron Woodley, I'm a little on edge. I'm a little fired up. I'm a little testy at times. So you know what? If I feel like somebody's getting the best of me,
like I said, I've watched a lot of sparring.
Yeah.
I've been in the room for a fair bit of sparring myself and interacted in the whole nine, and watched. I'm an A-list video watcher online as far as fights go, but again, it just seemed like this was a little more like there was a little more mustard on the
and maybe there was. Maybe there was. But
it's just
But
I could be wrong too.
Right,
I don't know.
And maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But again, this is I can say that now, from my experience, talking to fighters now, those kinds of days are much less frequent than they used to be. I'm not saying that guys don't throw down, but I think people are much smarter. Guys save themselves. Guys don't, there's guys that barely spot, GSP, we talk about GSP, probably sparred less than the majority of the big name fighters at the time. Definitely. And everybody thought he was crazy. Yep. He was one of the first guys that really, to limit his sparring and limit the amount of damage he took in practice.
Yeah.
And, we're not sitting there complaining about his results. So again, I think we're getting a video with no context, and I would be surprised if that's something that happens all the time, or it may have been a series where maybe 2 sessions before that, a couple things happened, and then they were kind of just blowing it off. And I guarantee you at the end of it, I'm sure that they had a conversation about it afterwards. But fun to watch.
Yeah, that's
very fun.
Better than some fights.
Very fun.
Better than a few fights we'll probably see Saturday night too, John.
Maybe.
Probably.
Or not. Or not.
Well, I'm out of shit to talk about. You have anything else before we sign it off here?
Well, I did want to say I was very excited when I saw a headline of Anthony Rumble Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
Possibly of signing with Bare Knuckle Fighting. So, of course, that got me thinking, of all the human beings that I do not want to punch me with his bare fist, Anthony Johnson is very, very high on that list.
For good reason.
For very good reason. He is signed as a fighter relations kind of ambassador, but there's been some talk that he could be enticed under the right circumstances to throw down without gloves.
That might be the scariest thought in all of MMA right now. Honestly, I mean, the question more so would be, who in the hell is going to sign on the dotted line to face him? That might be a bigger challenge than getting him back in.
Yeah, and we talk about who would fight a bear or who would fight a robot. No
who would
glove,
fight a heavyweight Anthony Johnson?
No glove Anthony Johnson. I mean, we're
that's right up there with a bear or a
Bigfoot
tank or
I don't
a
know.
great white shark in the water.
Right. I mean, I'm just picturing a human being's head exploding.
Yeah. He almost made it happen with gloves on. Now, granted, they're only 4 ounce, but still, it's something.
I mean, you think about the scariest guys that you've seen in an MMA cage. The guys that you just look at and you go, you know what? Nobody's probably gonna die, but you never know. Like, you
but
know,
I would be completely shocked.
Yeah, like, you know, if somebody was gonna punch someone and they were gonna burst into flames, you know, they were gonna explode because, you know, like re-entry with the space shuttle. That's definitely, you know, Anthony Johnson. Every time he threw a punch, it definitely, there was bad intentions, and you thought it might be the last punch that person ever took.
Just think back, like poor Tommy Spear and even our buddy Charlie Brenneman. Oh my goodness, there were some vicious Rumble Johnson knockouts. Like his highlight reel is right up there.
And then when he came, you know, he left for a little while and came back.
Even
and realized,
bigger
and realized that he didn't have to lose 85 pounds to fight
in one day.
You know, I can just eat and be happy. Goodness gracious!
Yeah, he's a big, scary man.
The punch he hit DC with that somehow DC weathered and got his wits back. I mean that.
Yeah,
oh my
we were there
goodness.
for that actually. Yeah, we were up in Buffalo for that one.
Yeah, boy. So if and when that were to ever happen. I can watch a lot of things. I may have to cover my eyes for that one.
John, you might cover your eyes, but don't cover your ears, because before we let you go, we have our interview with TUF 27 champ Mike Trizano. Check that out. We'll check you out next week. This is Tony Reid, Fighters Only Magazine, joined by TUF 27 champ Mike Trizano. How's it going, man?
It's going good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing well. So that's probably the intro you get at a lot of times, TUF 27 champ. I'm sure you're happy with that accomplishment. But I also read that you're looking to kind of put that time behind you a little bit. Can you speak to that point if that's the case, and maybe why?
Yeah, no, I mean, my last two fights, obviously the first one was for the finale, and then this past fight for UFC Denver, you know, I fought a fellow TUF 27 teammate, but contestant, and I'm ready to, you know, get in the mix of the lightweight division or maybe even the featherweight division. Kind of haven't decided if I want to go back down or not, but I'm ready to take on somebody with some UFC experience. I'm ready. I want to get in the mix, man.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So you mentioned UFC Denver, Ultimate Fight Night 139. A big win over Luis Pena, who you said was a fellow contestant, a castmate on the show. He had a lot of buzz coming in. We know the injury he went through, et cetera, et cetera. But you're the champ, and you, in a sense, in a weird way, maybe defended that title. But the fight itself, now that you've had a little time away from it to decompress and whatnot, can you reflect on your takeaways from that fight and from that night?
Yeah, I think I executed my game plan really well. There's obviously always room for improvement. You know, I definitely think I could have done a little bit more because I just, my timing felt on. I was landing everything, getting out of the way, and being able to land some strikes on him like at will. So I mean, if I put together a little bit bigger of combinations, I definitely feel like I could have finished the fight. But I was overall happy with my performance, and I'm looking forward to building on it.
Yeah, and I know maybe not pissed off, that might not be the right phrase, but I know you were a little upset with the kind of perceived lack of respect going in. It's like he kind of had some buzz, even though you did win the show, you know, won the title. Did you feel a little disrespected or a little maybe overlooked going into that one?
I mean, I didn't feel disrespected, but I definitely felt overlooked. You know, I think people just assumed he was going to win. For what reason, I have no idea. But,
yeah.
You know, that was just the thing. I mean, look, he has like a great marketing thing with his nickname and his look, so he kind of just blew up. It was good for him, you know. It's a good thing for him and his career, but I was definitely a little underestimated, and I proved everybody wrong, so it felt good.
Absolutely. So you mentioned, future fights, kind of wanting to get in the mix in the UFC, specifically with, you know, maybe even ranked guys coming up soon, maybe a possible drop in weight class. Who are you? I mean, without maybe making call outs, but who are you thinking of? Who would be a nice fight for you? Who would you be looking forward to fighting, I guess, at this juncture?
I mean, I would definitely like to fight somebody in the top 15. whether I deserve it yet or not, but I guess that's really up to the UFC. But I would like to test my worth, man. I'm super confident in my skills, and I feel like I can hang with the best in the world. So I definitely want to test myself and show everybody I'm here to stay.
Yeah, we were talking about call-outs or a lack thereof. I know you tweeted recently you were kind of sitting there taking in some of the call-outs. Did you have any thoughts on any specific peoples who might have had their name in your mouth and that kind of thing recently?
Yeah, no, a bunch of guys have called me out. That's exactly why I tweeted at Paul Felder, actually, because in my interview he was like, "Oh, do you want to call anybody out after my fight?" And I was like, "Nah, I don't call people out."
Yeah.
But I tweeted at him, I was like, "This is exactly why I don't call people out. They come to me, they call me out." So I mean, this is kind of like a good problem to have. I don't have to be sitting on the sidelines like waiting for a fight. Like people want to fight me, so hey, it's cool. I don't have to look for one, but I definitely want to fight somebody with more experience. I'm looking forward. I don't want to kind of move back.
Yeah, sure.
And I'd like to fight somebody with a name.
Yeah. So, from your own career to this point, what's been the fight of your life? Is there a fight that stands out? Is it the obvious, the Pena or the TUF finale, or is there a fight from earlier in your career? Obviously, you're clearly still undefeated, a lot of success. Is there one fight that stands out for you, and if so, why?
Honestly, I always feel like my last fight is the one that means the most, because it's a reflection of how much I've improved, and it's also a look on what I need to improve on and where I'm going to be. I really think that I just get better and better with every fight. Everybody's going to say that, but I really feel like I just constantly keep evolving, and I'm an exciting up-and-coming fighter, and everybody should definitely be watching out for me because I'm coming.
Yeah. So as far as inspirations, or maybe even fighters you're a fan of, I mean, are there guys that inspired you inside or outside of the gym, or are there certain fighters where you're like, man, if they're on pay-per-view, we gotta get this one, or go somewhere we can watch it? Are there a couple of fighters that you're a fan of, or guys or even women that inspired you over the years?
Actually, Donald Cerrone was definitely one of them. And
yeah.
I was like super pumped that I got to fight on a card with him. Like it was surreal because he's been around for so long. Like I watched him since the beginning of my career until now, and I still watch him. And he's an awesome dude. I met him there. He's a super nice guy, like down to earth. But he's a badass fighter, and I enjoy watching him fight. He puts on a good show, and that he was one of the guys I always looked up to, coming on up and as an amateur and stuff. And so was George St. Pierre. I always enjoyed watching him and how technical he was. So those are like two main guys that I really looked up to and just wanted to be like, in a sense.
Awesome stuff. So if not for MMA, I mean, do you even let your mind go to a place where you think of what you'd be doing with your life if it wasn't for mixed martial arts or success in fight sports? Do you wonder what you'd be doing, day to day for a living, I guess?
Well, I'd probably be in the military.
Yeah.
To be honest. Yeah. I've always liked to push myself and test my limits, and I've done like going through school. I had a really hard time with school. I wasn't really good with it. Didn't want to go to college or anything like that. But I was good at physical stuff, and I played sports my whole life. But martial arts is really what I took to the most, and I also went to like a ton of boot camps like growing up. I just enjoyed it. I had friends that wanted to be cops and things like that, and I would just tag along and go to boot camps with them. And,
for fun, right?
Honestly, yeah. I mean, if fighting fell through and I didn't end up going to where I am now, I'd probably be serving my country for sure. Oh,
very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. So there's a section we do in the magazine called MMA Clinic. It kind of just maybe open the gym doors and talk a little bit about what goes on inside the gym. Clearly, with Tiger Schulman's martial arts, that's kind of just become an East Coast staple, especially Northeast. I mean, can you just talk to us about what it's like working with Tiger, what it's like at the gym. I guess that's a kind of a loaded question, but I guess to start off, what is Shulman like to be around, to work with? I mean, I've only heard good things from all the guys I've talked to. Can you just give us a little insight of what it's like to be around Tiger?
It's hard to put into words, because I think a lot of people, take it for granted, but he's a legend, man. He's got such a vast amount of knowledge in martial arts that, I really think it's an advantage, and we're lucky to even have him, in our corner. And honestly, like, the way he breaks down fights, like when we get fight matchups and he'll watch film, and like, he literally gives us a game plan and it works to a T as long as we follow. Like, the game plan I had against Luis, low kicks and combinations after low kicks, and it worked. He couldn't throw anything at me because I was taking out his legs, and that was literally the game plan. Just kick, kick, kick. That's really it. Kick, defend a takedown. And it worked. He, like I said, he's a legend, and I really just, every time I go and train, I don't even say a word. I just listen. Yeah. I listen, and I'm just a sponge and trying to learn more and more and more. And it's really, truly an honor to be able to learn underneath somebody with his experience.
Yeah, and like you said, with the game plan, I mean, to have a game plan is one thing. To have it go in there and work to a T, I mean, that's got to boost confidence and morale like nothing else.
Oh, without a doubt. That's what just makes me feel so much more confident going into any fight. That's why, I already feel like I can hang with some of the best guys in the world, and having him in my corner, instructing me and telling me how to really take apart somebody, I honestly feel like the sky's the limit.
Absolutely. I know I saw a tweet and a couple of posts from you and from the gym, the brotherhood. We saw the picture, you and Jimmy Rivera and a number of other guys. Can you just tell us a little bit about what the brotherhood's all about?
Yeah, no, we're like a family, man. We all came from different parts of Jersey, New York, and all had different experiences growing up, and we all kind of came together, and Tiger Shulman's really just kind of saved us in a sense. We all don't know where we'd be without it, and without martial arts in general. And being able to train with Tiger Shulman's, it's like a family, like I said, and we all teach in our own different Tiger Shulman schools and teach kids and adults, and it's truly inspiring. For one, seeing like kids and adults reach goals and build their confidence under us, it's life-changing. And Tiger Shulman's changed my life, and watching it change others is a bonus.
Absolutely, absolutely. So is there a specific gym story you could share with us, whether that be, something where, you were in an instructor role, or maybe you were being coached, or just a sparring session, maybe just like top of mind gym story, whether it be funny or interesting? Is there a quick story you could share with us from the gym?
Yeah, so this is pretty funny, actually. We did one time it was like towards the end of like a sparring day, and we ended up doing it. This is right around when that 5-on-5 MMA fighting. I think it was in like Russia or something like that. Yeah. So it was like right around when that kind of went mainstream, and people were like, it went viral, and it was all over the internet. So we were like, oh, let's try it. Why not? To mess around. So we did it was like a 3-on-3. It was me, Jimmy, and I think Louis Gaudino was on my team. Nice. And then it was two other guys versus Lyman, and because Lyman was so much bigger than us, so we all just get in the cage, and it was 3-on-3, and we're fighting, and I'm fighting somebody else, and out of nowhere, I wasn't even looking, Lyman hits me with a body shot that honestly, I thought he touched my spine through my stomach. That's how hard I got hit. And I just went down. That was it. I couldn't move. And honestly, we laugh about it, and we joke about it afterwards. But it was one of the most painful shots I've ever felt.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, but not that moment.
not that particular moment.
Yeah, no.
So I know leading up to the fight with Luis, there was a lot of word and some pictures that he was training with Khabib. I know you said he's probably became more of a ragdoll than anything, but what did your training look like in the lead up to the Pena fight with Violent Bob Ross? What was your training look like? Did anything specific for Pena, or was it just kind of that 1% better every day kind of mentality, or anything sharpening skills leading up to that one?
My main training partner was Julio Arce, because he's a lefty and Luis is a lefty. You know, it's kind of hard to find somebody his height.
Yeah.
But Julio's an animal, man. This dude is trouble at 145, and he really helped me prepare. You know, he's actually really good at emulating like anybody. Like, you give him film and he'll emulate whoever our opponent is. You know, he helps. Like right now, he's helping Jimmy train for Aljamain Sterling. Like, he's emulating him.
Oh, nice.
He's just unreal, and the kid has an unlimited amount of cardio. Like, he just doesn't get tired. Each round, he gets even more. Like, he picks it up even more. It just doesn't make sense. But he really, really, you know, pushed me to my limits and really helped me get, one, my cardio up because I needed it for Denver, and two, it's just I just felt like there's no one else as a lefty that is at his skill level, and it boosted my confidence 100%.
Awesome. So something else I noticed on social media, the strength and conditioning. We see I think you just posted a weighted pull-up video. We see you flipping tires, the whole nine. What was strength and conditioning like for? I know that's kind of not a new thing in MMA, but to kind of make it work for mixed martial arts is relatively new. Can you just talk about what you do strength and conditioning wise leading up to a fight, or even between fights?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm gauging all the workouts towards like motions that I would do in MMA, so that like I have strength and that explosiveness. You know, even when I'm cutting weight, you don't want to lose muscle. You want to be able to keep it. And honestly, it's really made. I feel a lot stronger, and it's helped a lot, for sure.
Awesome. Well, hey, man, I don't want to hold you up too long. I do appreciate the time. I'm glad we could finally get it to work out. I'll definitely keep in touch to let you know when this goes to print, get a couple copies out to you, all that good stuff. And if it's cool, maybe I'll bug you every once in a while for an interview, man.
Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it.